Welcome everyone to Ad Age's 20-minute take. We're doing in partnership with Verizon. In this series, we'll tackle how marketers and buyers can adjust their strategies in this challenging environment. Leading executives from Verizon Media are on hand to answer their expertise and insights. With me today, ladies and gentlemen, is Darren Lepke, the head of video product management from Verizon Media. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's a pleasure.
You are welcome. Sorry, you are obviously old hat at this, doing a lot of interviews like this live, so it's no big deal for you. But first time on Ad Age with our audience, if I'm not mistaken, right?
It is indeed, and long-time reader, first-time webinar participant. So thank you for having me.
You are welcome. You are welcome. I'll invite our audience who is online to share their comments and questions in the social channels, and we'll be able to answer them later with Darren. Before we get started, I want to make sure I give Darren the appropriate introduction. Darren, will you tell us a little about your role in Verizon and how, in fact, it's shifted during this really miraculous / crazy time?
Sure. So Verizon, I work as a part of Verizon Media. Verizon Media, is home to many of the brands you guys know and love: Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Finance, AOL.com, Huffington Post. These are all parts of Verizon Media, separate part from where I do. There's another team within Verizon Media called our ad platforms team. They're primarily focused on kind of the B2B ad tech, all of our DSPs, SSPs, exchanges, all of that. And I work within the media platform team. So media platform is a B2B service provider. I'm the head of video product management there. So for us, we are a partner to many of the large broadcasters in the United States and around the world. Folks like ESPN, Fox, Discovery, NBC leverage our platform to stream their linear channels online to the apps, mobile devices and connected TVs that are becoming a bigger and bigger part of our video consumption world.
Yeah, I mean, and I think about the quantity of change that's happened right now. It's quite enormous, knowing how much people are engaging in video content differently. How has your life changed given the amount of attention that's now being focused into video and platform usage?
Sure. So yeah, it's definitely been an interesting time given the current situation with the pandemic that's happening. So for me and the world we operate in, video is a part of people's life every day. Consuming television content, consuming premium television shows, workout videos, those kinds of things. So for me, we already saw video as a large part of the fabric of our everyday lives. And I think what we're seeing now is that that only continues to expand. There are things that, we traditionally used to do in person, like working, like collaborating, that are now being transitioned to the world of video. There are, opportunities to get together, to, come together with communities of faith, of like-minded people across different activities. And unfortunately, we're being prevented from doing that in person today. So what we're seeing now is video also kind of getting into those areas of our lives. And really, I think we'll continue to see that happening even after this pandemic moves on, right? I think there's this pandemic is certainly accelerating a lot of the change we already see. I don't see it as a big kind of change agent. It's not really transforming our lives, but it's accelerating the changes that were already happening.
Yeah, it seems like the status quo in business was always kind of this thing that was keeping everyone doing what they had been doing before, right. And now status quo has actually become the thing that you have to run from. Like, well, the way we did it won't work anymore. We have to kind of switch. Is there any data that you can share with our audience of marketers and agency leaders that might be able to help inform how they can best make decisions regarding media selection?
Sure. So there's no doubt that if we want to focus specifically on kind of content consumption and digital media, that's my area of expertise.
Yeah. And focus on whatever area that you have specific.
Yeah, rather than the entire life of video that we're talking about. Let's focus on one place there. I can share some data. So I think it'd be no surprise for you, Josh, to learn that overall video consumption is up, like across our network, across the CDN that we operate, across our video streaming platform. There's no doubt that we're seeing a huge increase in video consumption. It's about 43% overall that we're seeing across our platform. Specifically for video, it's 43%. There's other things across our platform, things like video game downloads, things like app downloads, general digital, content consumption is up. And that should be not a surprise given, we have extra time. We're not commuting anymore. We have more time with family, more time to view content, right? The other thing that shouldn't be a surprise is, given the state of quarantine and lockdown, sports content is down. It's actually decreasing overall, while the overall pie is expanding. And filling its place currently are things like premium content, your on-demand television shows and films, and really news content. News content is up. If we're talking specifically about live content, we're seeing probably a 60 to 70% increase in news consumption overall. So I think this reflects kind of natural human behavior during a crisis. We're all looking for updates. With sports leagues being locked down, that's certainly something we'd expect to decline. But at the end of the day, I think we will see a return. We're planning for a return of live sports. We're planning for a return of kind of life as usual, but we're expecting that overall the consumption will continue to expand. We're not expecting a return to previous levels of consumption. We think it'll just continue to grow.
Interesting. I want to get back to the live sports question in a moment. I just want to re-welcome our audience. I'm Josh Golden, the president and publisher of Ad Age. You're watching Ad Age's 20-minute take with Verizon Media's Darren Lepke. Darren heads up all video product management for Verizon Media, and in fact is responsible for, obviously, as you've been hearing, much of the video consumption that's happening, along the platform. I just want to hit this one really hard because I'm getting a lot of questions from my clients and marketers on this particular topic. And 2 weeks ago, we did an event called TV Pivot, where all the different large broadcast companies had the chance to sort of come on and talk about what their plan was. But when you're hearing about the change in live sports, specifically the NFL, which obviously Verizon, the parent brand, has a very heavy relationship into I'd love to hear anything you're hearing that might be able to help our audience understand what's going on from a live sports perspective.
Sure. So I think already we're seeing a return to normal, or whatever the new normal is. For some sports leagues, there's German soccer leagues that are playing to empty stadiums already. They started a couple weeks ago. There's certainly here in the United States, the first kind of major event we're hearing about is a lacrosse tournament that's starting up, where all the athletes will be quarantined together and play a series of 20 games over a couple weeks time. So I think we're starting to see a return to normal there, albeit without fans. But for the NFL specifically, I don't have any kind of inside knowledge there. It's my understanding that they're on track to start the season as they normally would at the end of August and early September, and we'll make accommodations based on the current situation, whether it's with fans or without.
It's amazing to me. I was trying to think about a way that it could work to feel like there's a liveness of the audience and the fans there. I'm really interested to see how the NFL sort of approaches that, any of the large sporting brands. I want to do quick shout outs to folks that are joining us from all over the world. Marianne A., Michelle Bradley, Dina Amino, George Fafadis, Michael Chin, Daniel Zambaro, and Amy Lippert. Thank you for joining us. Your cities are not there, but I'm certain you are all over the world. So if you do a shout out, or if you're watching, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. I'm curious how you're seeing Verizon Media shifting specifically internally, and maybe even for some of your clients. What are partners changing during this time, and how are they best taking advantage of, as best as they can, of the difficult situation?
Sure. So, an adjacent part of our business is our kind of ad platforms team, and there's no doubt that the ad industry is hurting at this time. I think we're seeing a general across the board, not just the Verizon Media, we're seeing industry-wide a kind of pullback in ad spending and campaigns. The good news is, I think that's temporary. I think we see the consumption of video continuing to grow. And I think we'll see as we, start to go through the various phases of recovery that the ad spending will continue to recover in a similar fashion. For us specifically at Verizon Media, there's an increased focus on enabling live events, especially virtual ones, and tying in different opportunities for sponsorship, for advertising opportunities, and ultimately for consumer engagement. Right. Right now, with the absence of live events, there's a huge hunger to see things like concerts, to see things like virtual sports or esports. Certainly, kind of everyday common occurrences like shareholder broadcasts. We recently did the Warren Buffett event for the Berkshire Hathaway shareholders conference. There's still a need and a desire for folks to see what's going on in the world, and for us, it means a doubling down of virtual events and live events, and helping our customers bring those to the world.
Yeah, I think that when I heard about the Berkshire Hathaway the board meeting, and it was quite well attended, which was really interesting to hear about. I mean, I don't know, I get to listen to them at best, but watching one was certainly interesting for me. My brother-in-law mentioned it to me, so I watched it. It was fascinating to see the quantity of people and how engaging it was, and how much the shift it is to watch what ordinarily would be something you'd read about, but now people have a different time and a focus. Is there something specific you might be able to offer about a story or a client success that you think is someone who's doing something really differently that maybe other brand marketers can take advantage of? Sure.
So I think there's a couple different ways you can look at it. You can look at it as an extension of your brand and the kind of message that you want to send. One of the things that Verizon Media is doing is working with the USO. The USO is a organization for troops overseas to provide entertainment. The USO is leveraging our platform to stream television shows and movies to troops overseas. And we as a organization, during this pandemic are offering that for free as part of our brand engagement to reach out and to show what we can do. There's other things that we're doing, where we're providing things like live music concerts. We're doing a Pay It Forward live series where we're bringing on famous musicians every Tuesday and Thursday to stream live events from their homes. They're playing these little mini concerts, and at the same time encouraging the viewers to donate to various charities to support organizations throughout the pandemic. So from a brand perspective, I think it's not only providing new experiences to your viewers to help them connect with your brand, but also, advancing the experience and providing interactive things like donations, like virtual chats, like social viewing. There's ways to continue to enhance the experience they provide to ultimately, allow your brand to connect with viewers.
Yeah, having a purpose certainly has helped Verizon connect with an audience that is. I've watched some of their concerts; they've been amazing. Yeah. We're gonna switch to our Ad Age Plinko game, but before I do that, I want to invite all the folks that are watching to send in some questions for Darren so that he can address them directly. Ad Age Plinko, totally exciting. Get 3 possible. By the way, my children made this box, this Ad Age box. Here it is. It's got little tiny toothpicks in here, and I have a ping pong ball, which I dropped once before, by the way. And you get 3 possible questions. You ready, Darren? You get to choose which letter I drop it from.
Let's go with the E.
The E. Here it comes. Ready? Dropped right into number 2. Number 2. What is your go-to work from home outfit?
That's a funny question. I'm on a lot of these virtual hangouts now, so for the most part, from the waist up, the business attire has not changed. Still business on top, but I would definitely say that it's a little more like vacation down below, if you know what I mean.
I don't know exactly what that means, Darren, but that sounds super exciting. We did just get a question from Raphael on YouTube, and he asks, as some sports shift to esports, has consumption stayed the same? NASCAR, for example, is curious. And greetings from Santiago, Chile. So this is direct from down under there. Way down under. Not the other down under, but like south, the south of the equator.
Right. So yeah, I think we're definitely seeing some existing sports leagues try to kind of pivot their content offering. I think specifically in the NASCAR example, they're having current NASCAR drivers come in and compete virtually against each other in a racing game. And I certainly think that's just one part of a strategy that we're seeing a lot of our sports customers use to keep fans interested, right? I think you're seeing alternate content like these sporting type events. I think you're seeing more documentary style footage, where ESPN just released a big Michael Jordan documentary, which had a huge lift in their traffic. We're seeing a lot of our customers also, re-air old sporting content, but maybe layer in new commentary, maybe have somebody who was originally a player in the game come in and kind of give his inside take on what happened. We're also seeing things like, re-airing of sports footage, but rather than having sports commentators, they'll have lifestyle or brand sponsored commentary, where somebody will come in and just talk about the shoes that, a basketball player wore, and, have that be sponsored by a shoe company or a clothing company. So overall, I think the consumption is still down overall, but I think what we're seeing now is a great explosion of creativity amongst sports programmers and programmers in general to try to fill in the gaps where we're seeing the absence of our favorite sports today.
Yeah, I think it's I was surprised. This actually, the question from that Laura just posed from LinkedIn. I'll read it, but I feel the same way. With all the digital consumption up, how do you think advertisers will differentiate themselves? Will they start using more immersive media, 360, AR, VR? I got to say, thank you, Laura. I got to say that this is. I thought for sure by now we'd be having Zoom meetings in Oculus. And I just haven't seen that just yet. But not that it's gonna not come, but I feel like that is the next major place where business can start to move into. Obviously, this is an area. See, Laura agrees, Ruben agrees. I'm curious what you think about this.
Yeah, so I think in general, from a technical perspective, there's nothing holding us back from providing more immersive advertising experiences. I think whether it's AR, VR, whether it's 3D video 10 years ago or smell-o-vision 20 years ago, the challenges are rarely technical. And we, as speaking from a kind of technology services provider perspective, we have working examples of AR, VR, 360. We did some interesting demos for the NFL during the Super Bowl, leveraging similar things like that with some of the teams at Verizon Media. I think the bigger challenges there are always the business mechanisms behind the scenes. Like, how do you create the right infrastructure, the right ordering environment, the right ad units, the right inventory measurement? How do you appropriately measure it after the fact? I think it's really kind of the underlying institutional challenges which have to overcome. And the good news is, that's what that mostly takes is will and determination on the part of the industry. It isn't a technical challenge that we have to throw a bunch of PhDs at for 10 years and hope they come up with an answer, right? I think the technology is there. There certainly are opportunities. There certainly will be kind of early adopters and fast movers who will start to dip their toes in the water coming soon. But until we have kind of the institutional alignment around the value of that inventory and how we sell it, I think it'll still be a little bit slow going for the next probably 12 to 24 months. Do you think, I'm just curious, based on the data that you have, is there a prime time anymore? Do people still watch television at night, or is it now the full day is just sort of this peak of television viewing? Yeah, so again, I think that's going to be an evolving trend in the industry. So institutionally, while there are still upfronts that advertisers and broadcasters host and attend, I think there will continue to be the notion of prime time. But all of that is converging, right? Your upfronts and your digital upfronts are now converging into one event. You see large broadcasters like Viacom acquiring digital properties to be part of their digital mix and kind of see those two worlds blend and collide. Overall, consumers today have more choice and more influence on how content is distributed than ever. It's hard to remember sometimes that YouTube was invented, only about 10 years ago. The iPhone came out in 2008, but the television industry has, 70 years of history, right? So while we're all kind of looking at our watches and saying, hey, what's taking so long? I think we forget sometimes how fast everything's actually moving and sometimes how long it takes to catch up with the realities. Yeah, as we're rounding out our 20 minutes here, Darren, I'm curious, what's one thing you hope stays the way it's been, or at least what's one thing that you hope continues, given that sort of the amount of change we've seen? What's one thing you'd hope to go back to the way it was? I think what's here to stay and what I hope is what I hope is the continuing choice that consumers have. I think we'll get better at being able to find the different kinds of content that we want. I think the industry will continue to evolve to make it easier to locate your favorite shows. I think today it's a little bit of a mix of kind of picking services from one part, or subscribing into a bunch of different places. I think the choice and the options that we have as consumers is something I hope will stay. But what I hope will go away is kind of this old model of thinking of, you have to locate it in different areas. And I hope in the future we get kind of a converged kind of singular experience to start to find our favorite content.
Yeah, I think I hope that stays and goes away as well. I think that the insights you offered today, Darren, were really helpful. This is Ad Age's 20-minute take. Darren, you did a wonderful job. Darren Lepke is from Verizon Media. He's the head of video product management. You did a great job today, sir. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Josh. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you.